The FiberFX strand modeler is a powerful and easy way to create guides that we can later use to drive the placement and shape of the hair and fur in FiberFX in layout. We can also use the FiberFX strand modeler to create custom geometry that we can use without the hair system, and we'll take a look at that as well. So what I'm going to do is I've got this basic little ball here with two different surfaces. I'm going to come over to the Setup tab and choose FiberFX. This loads the FiberFX strand modeler. And I thought what we could do is we could take a look at the basic overview of the interface, and then also take a look at the fiber tab here and what's going on there. Okay, so as you can see, it's very similar to what we're used to with tools in LightWave. We've got some viewport controls that we can zoom in and out, rotate and pan. Of course, we can do all of that with the same shortcut keys that we use in Modeler. We can change between solid and wireframe. And that'll come into play here in a second when we're taking a look at what's going on. We can change our views: perspective, top, bottom, back, front, left, right. I usually stay in perspective, but you have those options. Okay, down here we're going to have our fiber information once we create some fibers. We can choose between the surfaces that we want to apply fibers to, and we can hide surfaces and things like that. And we'll take a look at that. So for starters, what I think we should do is go ahead and grow some fibers. Now this FFX scalp was the top part of the ball, so I'm going to grow some fibers there. Okay, we've already got some fibers going. Now, if I wanted to, I could hit OK. It'd create the guides for me. I'd take it over to layout, use those to drive the hair, and we're good to go. But I think we should do a little more work here before we would want to do that. Okay, I'm going to switch to wireframe so we can see what's going on, and I want you to note that there's a larger polygon here on top. Okay, and right now I'm using by area, so it's generating guides, it's generating these fibers randomly across the surface. If I choose area scaled, what we'll see is that it's randomly across the surface, but the fibers, the length of the fiber will be longer on larger polygons. Now that could come into play depending on how you build your geometry, but that's a really nice feature. We can also go to 1 per polygon, and we'll see that the fiber quantity is no longer available because it's putting, and also the area scale, because it's putting 1 fiber per polygon. And we can also choose 1 per polygon scaled. So the 1 polygon on that large polygon is going to be longer than all the others that are pretty much the same size. Okay, so I'm just going to go back to by area. Okay, and let's take a look. So if we have by area scaled, we can of course adjust these settings if we'd like. Okay. If we go back to by area, that's ghosted out. So just so you know what that does. The fiber quantity, how many fibers do you want? What if we want 300? Okay, well now we've got 300 fibers. The length, what if we want longer fibers? Well, we can just increase the scale, the length of our fibers with this setting. Now the next setting is going to be a little harder to see what's going on, so I'm going to kind of cheat. We're going to fast forward to something real fast just so that I can show you. I'm going to go ahead and drop the fiber quantity down to, let's just do 4, and let's take, I'm going to sneak over to gravity and increase some gravity so it pulls those down and come back over. That's all we need to know about gravity for right now. Okay, so if we look at this fiber right here, let me just move over to here. The edge quantity 1, 2, 3. Now, when I first saw this setting, I actually thought it stood for edge quality, and in a sense it does, because the higher the quantity, the more refined this curve would be, and the quality would be there. But it's actually edge quantity, so 1, 2, 3. If I increase this, let's do 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we want to have it with gravity, or if we're just editing it, as we'll see in future videos, there's a bunch of different ways that we can edit these guides. We might want more edges on there so we can get even further control. Just know that even if it's rough like this, later when you're rendering the hair or fibers, you can still make it smooth with a very faceted guide. But it's good to know that we have that setting. I'm going to change that back to 3. And let's go ahead and do 200 fibers. Okay. So now we've got our fibers here, and we know about the area scale. We know about these settings: fiber quantity, length, and edge quantity. We've got fiber sides. Now this is where it gets interesting. If you only plan on using this geometry it's going to create for guides, you stop here. You've got your the information in the guides that you need. If you don't plan on using the hair and fur system in layout, the FiberFX tool, and you just want to create some geometry, this is where you can have some fun. The fiber sides, right now it's 1, so it's like a 2-point poly. I'm going to set that to 2. And as we can see, let's go to solid. We're creating actual flat polygons here. Of course, it's 1, 2, 3 polygons per fiber that we're building. We can change the fiber radius. I'm just going to make those thick. So as you can see, we're getting thicker poly plates that we can work with. We can change the angle, so we can start rotating those. And we can change the taper, okay? And we can do that there. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and just increase the radius, make these a little fatter. Let's use less of them, okay? Just so we can see what's going on. And now, why would you want this? Why would you use this? Well, if this had a UV map, you could use an image of a feather, image of a scale, image of leaves. So we could use this as a way to quickly create polyplates, even for hair. If we want to do old school way of doing hair where we just use transparency maps, but you still need the geometry to place those transparency maps on. And if they're UV mapped, that would be even better. So let's go ahead and generate these. And we're going to come back because I want you to also see what it looks like with the regular guides. So I'm going to click OK to commit. I can also, before I do that, I could save off this file so that if I want to later come back, I could load up the same data if I'd like to do that. But let's go ahead and click OK. So what happened to what I was working on? Well, it conveniently stores it in the next available layer so that it doesn't get in the way. You can easily select it, and you can have it as a separate object. That comes in handy when you're over in layout as well. Now, here's where we get to save a lot of time. I'm going to go ahead and drop back to 4 windows, and if we look down here under T for textured UV, we've got a textured UV. Let's take a look. So if we go to UV texture, hey, look at there. We've got each one of those poly plates is already UV mapped for us. We slap a texture on there, we're ready to go. We didn't have to do any UV maps, and we're set. If you want a different UV map for the different pieces, well, you would just build these pieces of geometry. You would go ahead and build those in chunks, and then you could have as many UV maps as you'd like. Let's go ahead and hop back over to the FiberFX window and take a look. So if we grow, and let's get some length on there. That was with 2, okay, and we increased the radius. But you're not limited to 2 sides. We can do 3. We can do 4. There really isn't a limit. So you can create some really nice geometry that's already UV mapped for you to use for all sorts of things. Okay, but I'm going to drop this back down to 1. Okay, so we get our guides. Now, say I'm going to cheat again and move forward to some gravity and pull that down. Okay, so say this is what we want. We've got our guides. I'm going to go ahead and if I wanted to, I could save these so I can come back, but that was really easy to do, so I'll go ahead and hold off on that, and I'm going to click OK. Let's go back to the top view on this viewport, and we'll see that I still have my plates if I'd like those, but I'm going to go over and check out the guides. So there are some guides that I can use to drive where hair is going to be placed in FiberFX in layout. Really easy to do. If I want to further edit these, I can always work with the strand tool, which be sure to check out the strand tool video because it goes into detail about some of the numeric options there. But that's just a really quick look at generating some guides that we can use later on with FiberFX in layout, or even if you don't plan on using FiberFX, we can always generate these polyplates that are already UV mapped for things like feathers, fish scales or dragon scales. We can also use them for leaves and trees and things like that. So quick look, a quick introduction of the basic interface of the FiberFX strand modeler, as well as the fiber tab to help get you going using the strand modeler in LightWave Modeler.